Hello, everyone. Welcome to U.S. Immigration News. The Supreme Court just made a landmark decision that could reshape immigration in America. In a unanimous ruling, they've given the Department of Homeland Security unprecedented authority to revoke visas without judicial oversight. What does this mean for immigrants and their families? And how could it impact future immigration policies under the incoming Trump administration? Stay tuned as we break down this ruling, the case behind it, and the far-reaching implications for millions of lives. Let's dive into the details. If you are liking this video, please hit the bell button, subscribe, and like it, so that you may get updates straight to your smartphone. Supreme Court's landmark ruling on visa revocations, a new era for immigration policy. The United States Supreme Court has unanimously ruled in favor of granting the Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, broad authority to revoke visas at any time, for any reason, and without judicial review. This decision marks a significant shift in immigration policy and could have profound implications for immigrants seeking legal status in the United States. The case, which involved allegations of marriage fraud, reinforces the federal government's discretionary power in immigration matters and sets the stage for stricter immigration policies under the incoming Trump administration. The case at a glance. Bouafa as Mayorkas. The case centered on Amina Bouafa, a U.S. citizen who filed a visa petition for her husband, Alaa Hamayel, a Palestinian national. The petition was initially approved by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. However, 2 years later, USCIS discovered evidence during a background interview suggesting Hamayel had previously entered into a sham marriage to obtain immigration benefits. Specifically, Hamayel was alleged to have paid his former spouse $5,000 to facilitate the fraudulent process. On these grounds, USCIS issued a notice of intent to revoke the petition and subsequently denied Hamayel's application for permanent residency. Bouafa contested the decision, arguing that USCIS's actions were arbitrary and lacked sufficient cause. Despite these claims, lower courts upheld DHS's authority to revoke the visa petition. The case eventually reached the Supreme Court, which unanimously affirmed the lower court's ruling. The Supreme Court's decision. In its first decision of the term, the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in favor of DHS, with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson authoring the opinion. The court determined that DHS has the discretion to revoke visa petitions under federal law, specifically 8 U.S.C. 1555, which allows the agency to cancel approved petitions at any time for good and sufficient cause. Justice Jackson emphasized that this discretion is broad and not subject to judicial review, even in cases involving a serious allegation like marriage fraud. The ruling reaffirmed the federal government's authority to revoke legal immigration status without the possibility of court intervention. Key takeaways from the ruling. 1. Expanded DHS authority. The decision cements DHS's power to revoke visas or legal status without judicial oversight. This includes cases where evidence of fraud or legal violations is discovered after an initial visa approval. 2. Judicial deference to immigration agencies. By removing judicial review from such cases, the ruling reduces the scope for immigrants to challenge DHS decisions in federal courts. This represents a broader trend of deferring to the executive branch on immigration matters. 3. Potential for policy shifts. The ruling could pave the way for stricter immigration policies, especially as President-elect Donald Trump has promised a crackdown on undocumented migrants and immigration fraud. Implications for immigrants. Critics argue that the decision grants unchecked power to immigration agencies, potentially leading to decisions that lack accountability or transparency. Without judicial oversight, immigrants may have fewer avenues to contest visa revocations, even in cases where errors or misunderstandings occur. Supporters of the decision, however, see it as a necessary step to address loopholes in the immigration system. They argue that DHS needs the ability to act swiftly and decisively in cases involving fraud or national security concerns. A turning point for U.S. immigration policy. The Supreme Court's decision comes at a pivotal moment as the Trump administration prepares to implement its immigration agenda. With Kristi Noem, a strong advocate for stringent immigration policies, nominated as the new DHS Secretary, and Tom Homan taking a leading role as border czar, the ruling provides a robust legal foundation for future actions. These could include tighter restrictions on family-based immigration and expanded efforts to prevent fraud in the visa process, closing major immigration loopholes. During the oral arguments, Justice Samuel Alito highlighted the broad discretion afforded to DHS, describing the language of the statute as conferring the broadest level of discretion that you could imagine. This interpretation underscores the intent of Congress to allow immigration officials to revoke visas when necessary, without interference from the judiciary. The ruling also reflects a growing recognition of the challenges posed by fraudulent immigration practices. By empowering DHS to take unilateral action, the decision aims to close loopholes that have historically been exploited by bad actors. What lies ahead? As immigration policy takes center stage in the coming years, the Supreme Court's ruling will likely serve as a cornerstone for future enforcement efforts. For millions of immigrants in the U.S., the decision underscores the importance of adhering to immigration laws and maintaining transparency in their applications. At the same time, it raises questions about accountability and the balance of power between the executive and judicial branches. The ruling's impact will undoubtedly be felt across the immigration landscape, shaping the experiences of individuals and families seeking to build a life in the United States. The U.S. Immigration News Channel provides all necessary visa information and procedures for your U.S. immigration journey. It is important to understand the United States immigration processing steps, visa application requirements, processing times, forms, fees, and more. We will continue to provide all information about U.S. visitor visas such as B-1 and B-2, work visas such as L-1A, L-1B, and H-1B, student visas, green cards, immigrant visas, EB-1, EB-2, EB-3, EB-4, and EB-5, and family immigrant visas. Thank you for visiting us today, and we'll see you in the next video. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe channel for more U.S. immigration update videos.